Hello and welcome to another episode of Bookity Book Book. I'm Ray and this is my review of Insurgent by Veronica Roth. I'm going to do this review in two parts. The first without spoilers for Insurgent and the second with spoilers for Insurgent. However, both parts will contain spoilers for Divergent, so if you haven't read Divergent, please leave now. So, Insurgent is a sequel to Divergent, and it takes place more or less 1 hour after Divergent ends, and because of this it doesn't really feel like a new story, but it feels like a continuation of the story, and I think that worked really well. I hope she continues this technique for the third book, because I hate it when sequels take place months after the first, as you feel like you've got to spend a few chapters catching up with what the characters have done, and this way you're straight away into the plot and you don't need anything explained. I finished this book last night and I'm practically gushing with good things to say about it, as I loved it so much. It's exactly what I like to read, with the right mix of heroism, science, romance, sacrifice and adventure, and it worked really well, and I loved the way this book was written and how it continued from Divergent. I think it made a very good sequel. I actually preferred this book to Divergent, which I was not expecting, as I loved Divergent a great deal also. Usually the second book in a trilogy just takes the series to where it needs to be for a big battle in the third book, and I didn't feel that about this book, as there's so much adventure and action. I think it stood well on its own and wasn't forced at all. One of my biggest pet peeves about trilogies is when the couple breaks up in the second book just for a bit of drama, so people know that it's not absolute perfection in their relationship. I was pleased that this book didn't do that, because it really niggles me when it does that, because you know they just couldn't get back together in the third to be stronger than ever. That didn't happen in this book. Tristan and Tobias do have tension in their relationship, but I felt that it wasn't forced and it was believable, and it took the characters on a good story arc, and you could really understand them a bit more without them trying to impress each other, but actually being honest. I love Tobias in this book again, and he's one of my favourite heroes in young adult literature, and I would very happily go on a date with him. Multiple dates probably. Like you can see, the whole dystopian society crumbling in this book, and it's the desperation in the characters are really starting to show, which should be really interesting to see in the third book. I rate this book as 5 stars. It impressed me constantly, and I love the characters, and I'm very excited for the next. I'm now going to continue with spoilers, so if you haven't read this book, and I really think you should read it, leave now and you won't have it spoiled, and you can come back then and see what I thought of it with spoilers. One thing I loved about this story is just sacrificing herself to save those under simulation. It's one of my favourite things for it to happen to a protagonist, and I think it was perfect for the story, and it really gripped me. I couldn't put the book down the whole time she was in the labs, and it was really good. I also love how Tobias handed himself over to help her, as I think it showed how strong their relationship really is, and it's one of my favourite scenes in the book is when Triss is strapped to the operating table and injected with fear serum, as I think you really see the two of them show their true colours, and it was a really interesting dynamic for the two of them to go through. I love the scene before Triss's execution, when the two of them touch hands across the glass, as I felt that it really showed the characters as raw, and without a plan you could see really how much they felt for each other, and I thought it was really touching. The only real niggle I have with this book is the fact that Uriah wasn't in it more, as I felt that he's quite a cool character, and if we got to see more of him I think he would be one of my favourites, but at the moment we don't see enough of him to really connect and invest in his character. I am glad, however, that we got to see more of Peter, as I thought his development was really interesting and should prove to be very exciting in the third one. I like the ending to this book as well, as I thought it set the tone for the third one perfectly, where the line "then the shouting begins", as I'm guessing there's going to be total uproar in the third book. I think it'll be everyone for themselves, but I'll have to wait a whole frigging year to find out, because the third one is coming out next year, which is a big bummer. So that's it for my review. If you have any suggestions of books that I should read and review, please leave them in the comment section below. If you'd like to see more reviews, please subscribe, and my next review will be The Fault in Our Stars by John Green.